want to show you some information about crayons. Now, crayons are really neat. Some people think they're pretty basic, but you could actually do a lot of cool things with crayons. So I want to show you, we have a couple different types available in our classroom, and there are more types out there, and I do actually have other ones in the classroom as well. So the first one is just a regular crayon. So this crayon, there's nothing fancy about it. There's no special words besides, in this case, Crayola. And what you could do is you can press light, you could press hard. You can do lots of neat things. The harder you press, the more solid it gets, and it gets rid of those little speckles on there. So that's a regular crayon. But say you want to draw on a colored piece of paper or black paper. You're not going to be able to use a regular piece of crayon. So I have these things called construction paper crayons. Construction paper crayons are pretty neat. There's actually a little bit of white kind of hiding in there if you ever look closely as you use it. But what happens is construction paper crayons, they look just like regular crayons on white paper, but they're fantastic on black paper or colored paper. So if you want to try using those, I highly recommend it. And there's also a variety of different colors. And the way you know that these are construction paper crayons is because the paper says construction paper right on it. And then we have multicultural crayons. Now, multicultural crayons you would use if you wanted to do skin color. Now, I also have multicultural color pencils, markers, and paint. Now, markers you're not able to mix, but colored pencils and crayons you can mix, and I want to show you about it. Now, we are all different, and that's what makes us unique. In this box of crayons, there's only 16 colors in here. There is not enough crayons in this box to show how different we all are. So you might have to do some blending with these, which is why I wanted to include this on here. So if you're doing skin color and you want to match your skin color or make somebody else's skin color, you can do blending with it. And that just involves overlapping. So I'm just going to pick out some of the skin colors that are in my box. And I'm going to show you how you can blend with them. And I might not have every single skin color in here because I kind of spilled my box. But what you can do is you can layer them. And you can mix other colors in here too. And by overlapping them, you can make a variety of different skin colors so that you can make it look just like you or whoever you want it to look like. So I am just overlapping them, and you can experiment, be creative, because you never know which two colors will blend the best for you. Oops, I'm running out of room. Now, I press lightly on all of these, but you can press significantly harder, and you can make different colors by how hard you press or how light you press. Also, in the multicultural box, there happens to be, I don't know why that one's in there, there happens to be blue, green, pink, and that's to help you make things like eye colors and skin colors. Hair color, you might also need to experiment with blending outside of this box because this is not a box that includes everything. Then there are fluorescent markers. Some of the boxes say neon as well. These markers are really cool because if you take a black light, which looks kind of more like a purple light, and you shine it on it, it glows in the dark. So if you want to use these these crayons, not markers, and use them, they will actually glow. Now, some of them will glow better than others. And I don't have a black light that I can show you on this camera, but I do have black lights in my classroom. So we can test them out in there. But these colors are kind of more see-through on regular paper. They're not as vibrant. But when you turn off the light and you turn on a black light, they really, really pop. So they're kind of fun to experiment with if you want to try that. And the last thing I have to show you is I also have fabric crayons. Now, fabric crayons are not traditional crayons. What it says to do on here is you actually draw it on regular paper, and then you take that regular paper and you put it on a piece of white fabric, and you have to use an iron. So obviously I would do the ironing because an iron can get hot. So you draw a picture on here, and then you lay it on top of fabric in an iron, and it will transfer what you draw onto the fabric. So that's kind of neat. It's kind of a combination of combining our fibers and our drawing. Now whatever you draw on here will show up reverse on the fabric. So if you draw anything that has letters or numbers, it'll show up backwards. So you want to actually write it backwards to show up correctly. So that is pretty neat. Then of course you can make all different colors with what you do with the crayon. So you have hatching. So hatching is doing parallel lines, and the closer you put the parallel lines together, the darker it's going to look. So this one doesn't necessarily depend on pressing harder or softer. And you can also do hatching with two colors, and that'll blend it. So you can overlap them or you can blend them. So I'm going to blend two different purples together. All right, cross hatching is neat because cross hatching is where you do X's. So the closer the X's are together, the darker it looks. And this is not about pressing harder or softer, it's about where your lines go. And you can also do it with two colors as well. So for this one, I like to do an opposite color, a different color going the opposite direction. So it's tricking your eye into blending it. Now I'll switch to my construction paper crayons just so I can show you some more. So stippling is using dots, and the less dots you use, the lighter it'll look in the end. Now be careful about jabbing your crayon up and down, because if you do that, you will break my crayon, and you don't want to break the crayon. Although there is nothing wrong with a short crayon. So the more dots you have, the darker the color appears. And then of course, lots of dots make the color look darker. And of course you could try it with two colors. And it'll trick your eye and make you think that you're blending it when you're not actually blending it. So let's do this color. I love the colors inside of the construction paper crayon box. So that is two colors. The last thing I want to show you is the side stroke. So the side stroke is really good for coloring in a large area, but it does come out a little bit bumpy and has the white specks. And you know I always say that you don't really want to see the white. So to do a side stroke, you need a crayon that has no paper on it. So don't go and peel off the paper off my crayons. I already have a lot of crayons with the paper peeled off. This crayon is awfully big to do a side stroke, so you probably want to find a smaller crayon. You're going to lay the crayon on the side like this, and you're going to rub. Oop, I might not have grabbed the best crayon. Let me grab a different one. Okay, let's try this crayon instead. And you're going to rub sideways. So that's the side stroke. But it gets really neat if you take a textured plate and you put it underneath of it and you do the side stroke. Your texture actually transfers over, which is kind of neat. And just to show you how it looks if I was to use the point of that same crayon on top of a texture plate, look how cool that is. So you have the side stroke with nothing underneath, the side stroke with a texture underneath, and then this is not a side stroke, but the texture's still underneath. All right, those are some fun crayon techniques. I also have other fun crayons that you could look into. So I have like silver crayons in here. I have homemade melted crayons. There's a lot of fun things you can do with a crayon. You can also do a crayon underneath paint, and that makes a really neat effect too. All right, enjoy crayons.